So, um, have you ever found yourself, in that relentless chase, pushing for more success, more stuff, more experiences,
Mm.
only to kind of get there, look around, and feel,
Mm.
well, not satisfied, maybe a bit restless?
Yeah.
Like you've put in all that work, but you've just been chasing the wind.
It's a surprisingly common feeling, that little ache,
Right.
Underneath all the achievements, we hit the goal and think, okay, now what? Is this really it?
Exactly that feeling. And honestly, that's what we're really plunging into today here on the Deep Dive.
Okay.
Our whole mission is to try and cut through some of that noise.
Yeah.
You know, ask those big questions about meaning, purpose,
Yeah.
real contentment.
Right.
And we're going to do that by digging into some timeless wisdom from an ancient text, but seen through a very modern, very personal lens.
And our main source for this is a really powerful reflection. It's called Chasing the Wind, Lessons from Ecclesiastes for Today's World. And it's by Reuben Juma Onunga.
Yeah.
What's so great about it is it's not some dry academic study. It's raw. It's honest. It's about his own journey of discovery.
Yeah, and it's his unique viewpoint that just makes the ancient words pop, doesn't it? Onunga, he's a civil engineer, but also, and this is key, he's a mental health survivor, specifically diagnosed with bipolar disorder. He calls himself a reawakened soul. And during his own really difficult time, his own personal storm, he found incredible comfort and truth in the book of Ecclesiastes.
Right? That lived experience, it just changes everything. It makes the wisdom feel urgent, relevant for us right now.
Definitely. So we'll be looking at the teacher's quite startling observations as King Solomon, traditionally,
Right.
about how futile so many earthly goals can be. But crucially, we're connecting it all back to Unga's story.
And hopefully that gives you, our listeners, a kind of shortcut to understanding what really lasts, what actually satisfies deep down beyond the temporary buzz.
Okay, so let's dive in. Let's unpack this, starting with the teacher's incredibly bold opening in Ecclesiastes. He just comes right out and says, meaningless, meaningless, utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless.
Wow.
That's quite a way to start things off, isn't it?
It really is. And it's designed to grab your attention, I think, to shake you up a bit.
Yeah.
Remember, this is supposedly Solomon speaking, a man who had everything. Unmatched wisdom, incredible wealth, huge accomplishments.
The whole package.
The whole deal. Yet he looks back and there's this deep sense of disillusionment. And Onunga connects with that so strongly, he calls it the achievement illusion.
The achievement illusion. Tell me more about that.
Well, Onunga explains that even with his own professional success, the awards, the respect, he still carried this quiet ache inside. And that unresolved feeling, that emptiness, despite the external success, eventually contributed to his mental health breakdown.
That just resonates so much with our modern kind of hustle culture, doesn't it? We're always chasing the next thing, status, money, influence, even likes online. It's relentless striving.
Right.
But how often do we actually stop and ask ourselves, okay, but why? Yeah. What's the real point of all this?
And that metaphor the teacher uses, chasing after the wind, it's perfect.
It really is.
It feels like you're doing something, you're moving fast, pursuing, but you can't actually grasp anything substantial. It slips through your fingers.
Yeah.
Onunga's big realization was that he defined himself by what he did, his job, his successes, instead of who he was at his core. And when those external things faltered, which they inevitably do.
Right, life happens.
He felt completely empty. It wasn't just that the achievements felt hollow, it was that his whole sense of self was built on something shaky.
That's a really critical distinction. Okay, so if chasing achievements and external validation leads to emptiness, what about just chasing pleasure? Pure enjoyment. Did Solomon explore that?
Oh, absolutely. That was his next big experiment, you could say. Having found ambition wanting, he says, okay, let's try pleasure. Ecclesiastes 2.1, he says, I said to myself, come now, I will test you with pleasure to find out what is good. But that also proved to be meaningless.
And he didn't hold back, did he?
Not at all. He went all in. Laughter, wine, massive building projects, music, accumulating wealth, sensual companions. You name it, he tried it. Total immersion and sensory experience.
Like the ultimate billionaire's bucket list, probably.
Pretty much. But after experiencing it all, his conclusion is hauntingly familiar. Ecclesiastes 2.11. Everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained under the sun.
So even maximum pleasure didn't fill the void?
Nope. The sheer scale of his pursuit just seemed to emphasize its ultimate lack of substance. And Onunga found parallels in his own recovery journey.
How so?
Well, after his initial breakdown and period of intense stress, he naturally sought out pleasure to try and, feel better, getaways, nice meals, new gadgets.
Trying to find some joy again.
Exactly. And he found they were okay distractions. They provided temporary relief.
But didn't last.
Didn't last, didn't fulfill. He realized that external enjoyment couldn't actually fix what felt broken inside him. He needed something else entirely: peace, stillness, a deeper sense of purpose.
That's such a relevant point for us today, isn't it? In this age of instant gratification, constant stimulation, we're always looking for the next hit, the next enjoyable experience. But does that surface-level enjoyment truly satisfy? Or does it just leave us wanting more, maybe feeling even emptier afterward?
It often does. It reminds me of that C.S. Lewis quote that Onunga mentions.
Oh, yeah, the one about our desires.
That's the one. Lewis suggests our desires aren't too strong, but actually too weak. We mess around with fleeting things, drink, sex, ambition, when infinite joy is actually on offer.
We settle for cheap thrills instead of deep joy. That's powerful.
It really is.
Okay, so if achievement is chasing the wind and pleasure alone is too, what about wealth, the big one? Surely accumulating riches brings lasting satisfaction.
Well, Ecclesiastes throws some cold water on that idea, too. The teacher points out this specific kind of tragic scenario. He says in chapter 6, verse 2, God gives some people wealth, possessions, and honor, but God does not grant them the ability to enjoy them, and strangers enjoy them instead. This is meaningless, a grievous evil.
Wow. Having it all but not being able to enjoy it, that's hard.
It's a deep paradox, isn't it? Solomon, the wealthiest king imaginable, knew this firsthand. It's not about lacking the stuff, it's about lacking the inner capacity to actually take delight in the blessings you have. That inability he calls a grievous evil.
And Onunga, during his recovery, he really grappled with this too, right? Looking back at his success.
He absolutely did. He reflected on his worldly achievements and asked himself, what's the point of having riches if you don't have rest? Or, having trophies if you lack the strength or peace of mind to even appreciate them.
Yeah, I see.
And it led him to fundamentally redefine wealth, not as just accumulation of assets,
Right.
but as appreciation. For him, true wealth became things like peace of mind, a sincere friend, a loving family, a quiet morning, a purposeful day. Things money can't necessarily buy.
That shifts the focus entirely. It really challenges the constant message we get that more money equals more happiness.
It does, and it makes you think, doesn't it? How many people out there are financially rich, but, poor in spirit, poor in peace?
Or they sacrifice health, relationships, chasing that next dollar.
Exactly. It brings to mind that quote Onunga uses from Schopenhauer.
The one about seawater.
Yeah. Wealth is like seawater. The more we drink, the thirstier we become. It highlights that deep, satisfying joy isn't something you can just purchase. It's often described as a gift, something received rather than acquired.
Okay, so if the big three, achievement, pleasure, wealth, don't deliver ultimate meaning on their own, how do we navigate life? Especially with all its ups and downs.
Well, this brings us to one of the most famous passages in Ecclesiastes, chapter 3. The teacher offers this perspective on the rhythms of life.
To everything there is a season.
Exactly that one. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. And then he lists those pairs, those contrasts.
A time to be born, a time to die. Weep and laugh, mourn and dance.
Right. It's like this beautiful, sometimes difficult symphony. Life flows in these distinct seasons. And the wisdom here isn't about trying to force sunshine when it's raining or resisting the inevitable changes. It's about learning to recognize the season you're in and move with it, with awareness and maybe even grace.
That must have been incredibly relevant for Onunga during his mental health struggles.
Hugely relevant. He talks about struggling intensely with the seasons of waiting and stillness. He just wanted to rush his recovery to get back to normal.
Understandable.
Totally. But he had to learn that healing has its own pace. And he adds this insight. God, it seems, is never in a hurry, but always on time. Accepting that pace, that season, was crucial for him.
That's such a countercultural idea today, isn't it? We want constant progress, nonstop productivity, uninterrupted happiness.
We really do.
So this asks us, how do you actually honor the season you find yourself in? Even the hard ones, the painful ones, knowing they might be part of a bigger picture.
And Ananga offers this really helpful reframing. He came to see the tough seasons not just as periods to endure, but as tutors.
Tutors? How so?
Well, he says the dry season taught him gratitude for when things flowed again. The lonely season taught him the depth of prayer. The broken season taught him empathy for others' suffering. And the waiting season, that taught him trust.
Wow. That completely changes the perspective on difficult times, turning pain into a lesson, into purpose.
Exactly. It's a profound shift.
Okay, so building on that idea of navigating seasons, the teacher also gives some pretty direct advice about balance, doesn't he? About avoiding extremes.
Yes. In chapter 7, he advises, do not be over-righteous, neither be over-wise, do not be over-wicked, and do not be a fool.
So don't be too good, don't be too bad. Sounds moderate.
Well, it's more nuanced than just being blandly moderate. He follows it up with, whoever fears God will avoid all extremes. So it's a warning against destructive extremes. Even seemingly good things like being over-righteous, maybe self-righteous or rigidly pious or overwise, relying solely on your own intellect, becoming arrogant.
Right, those can be traps too.
Definitely. True wisdom, according to the teacher, involves finding this middle path, holding things in tension, using discernment. It's about maturity, really. Not necessarily compromise, but avoiding those dangerous poles.
And Onunga's personal story speaks directly to this with his perfectionism.
It really does. He identifies his own tendencies towards perfectionism and idealism as major contributors to his breakdown, pushing himself to unrealistic extremes.
Mm-hmm.
And in recovery, he discovered that what saved him wasn't some heroic effort or bravado. It was balance, finding a sustainable, disciplined, yet gentle daily rhythm.
That seems like such vital wisdom for our world right now, which feels so polarized.
Doesn't it? Everything seems pushed to extremes. Opinions become absolute. Nuance gets lost. So the challenge for us, listening to this ancient advice, is how do we cultivate that maturity, that restraint? Especially when everything around us is shouting for outrage.
And the key, according to the text, is
the fear of God, not terror, but that deep reverence, that humility we talked about earlier. Onunga points out that this perspective, this anchoring in something bigger than ourselves, is what helps us avoid getting swept away by those extremes. He even connects it to Aristotle's idea of virtue being the mean between two vices.
Interesting connection.
Huh.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. What about relationships, community? Does Ecclesiastes speak to that?
Oh, very much so. This is another area where the teacher sees profound meaning, or the lack thereof. He makes that classic observation in chapter 4.
Two are better than one.
That's it. Two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up.
Yeah.
And then the crucial contrast, but pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up.
That really highlights the emptiness of going it completely alone.
It does. The teacher even paints this picture of a man toiling away endlessly, completely isolated. And he asks this really poignant question on behalf of that man. For whom am I toiling?
Oof. Yeah. What's the point of success if there's no one to share it with, or if you have no support when you stumble?
Exactly. And again, Onunga's experience really brings this home. During the worst of his illness, he felt profoundly alone, even when people were physically around him. He realized that his fierce independence, something he'd always seen as a strength, had actually become a kind of weakness in that context. It isolated him.
So how did that change?
He says very clearly that he was healed through community. It wasn't just medication or therapy, though those were important. It was the people. Steadfast friends who stuck by him. Mentors like Professor Pats Meshach Odira, he mentions, who acted like a father figure. Family who showed up and stayed. That human connection was vital.
That's a powerful testament against the modern tendency to maybe prioritize competition over connection or networks over deep roots.
It really is. So many people seem incredibly connected online, but deeply lonely in reality. Polished exteriors hiding a lot of isolation.
Makes you think, are you cultivating those deep roots? Or just building a big, potentially shallow network?
It's a great question, and Onunga drives it home with that African proverb he cites.
One about going fast or far?
Yeah. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. But he adds a crucial point. Real community doesn't just happen. It needs to be cultivated. With humility, grace, patience. It takes effort and intention.
Right. Okay, so we've talked about pursuits, seasons, balance, community. What about the spiritual dimension? The direct connection with God in all this?
Ecclesiastes addresses that directly too, particularly warning against a sort of casual or careless approach to the sacred.
How does it put it?
In chapter 5, it says, "Guard your steps when you go to the house of God. Go near to listen rather than to offer the sacrifice of fools." And later, "Therefore stand in awe of God."
Go near to listen,
Yeah.
not just to talk or perform.
Exactly. It emphasizes listening over loud, maybe empty declarations or rituals. And that phrase, stand in awe or fear God, it comes up repeatedly. Again, it's not about cowering in terror.
It's that reverence idea again.
It's that deep reverence, awe, recognizing the vast difference between the creator and the creature.
Yeah.
And that humility, that perspective, is presented as foundational wisdom. Onunga found this wasn't restrictive, but actually incredibly freeing.
And how did that play out for him, practically, especially during his recovery?
Well, his experience fundamentally changed how he prayed. He talks about reaching a point where he simply had no strength left to shout, no eloquent words to try and impress God.
Just brokenness.
Yeah. And in that place, his most profound healing experiences came not from what he said, but from finally being still enough to listen, to hear God's whisper, as he puts it, in the quietness. He said, "I didn't need noise. I needed stillness."
That's a powerful insight for our noisy world, isn't it? We're so addicted to speaking, broadcasting, expressing ourselves, that the art of just listening, especially in a spiritual context, feels almost lost sometimes.
It does. So the question becomes, are we approaching the sacred casually, almost like a transaction, or with that genuine posture of awe, humility, and readiness to listen?
And Onunga found comfort in that stillness, referencing Psalm 46.10.
Yes, "Be still and know that I am God." That verse became incredibly real for him. It underscores how true reverence, that fear of God, actually leads to peace and wisdom, not anxiety or panic.
Okay, so after exploring all these deep themes, the limits of earthly pursuits, the importance of seasons, balance, community, reverence, does the teacher just leave us contemplating? Or is there a call to action?
Oh, there's definitely a call to action, a sense of urgency even.
Right.
In chapter 9, he says, "Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might, for in the realm of the dead, where you are going, there is neither working, nor planning, nor knowledge, nor wisdom."
Basically, live life now while you can.
Exactly. It's this fascinating paradox woven through the book. Despite all the meaninglessness under the sun, despite the limits of our understanding, the conclusion isn't despair or inaction. It's the opposite. It's an encouragement to live fully, gratefully, purposefully right now. Enjoy the simple things, he even says. Eat your food with gladness and drink your wine with a joyful heart. Don't wait for some perfect future moment that may never arrive.
And Onunga's journey really underscored that fragility of life, didn't it?
Absolutely. Facing his own mortality and intense struggles really drove home the preciousness of the present moment. He talks about how, after weeks stuck indoors battling his illness, just a simple walk outside in the sun felt sacred.
Wow.
It made him realize that life is not only lived in milestones, but in moments. Every day felt like a second chance, and he became determined not to waste it.
That really challenges our tendency to put things off, doesn't it? To delay joy, postpone dreams, wait for the right time.
It absolutely does. It forces us to ask, what am I putting off right now that I should be doing with all my might today? Whether it's a big dream or just a simple act of kindness or diligence.
And Onunga quotes Seneca on this too, right? About wasting time.
Yeah, that powerful line. It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. And the teacher's phrase, whatever your hand finds to do, that includes the ordinary, the unseen tasks too, doing them well matters.
But even with all these insights, all this wisdom, Ecclesiastes is also incredibly honest about the fact that we don't get all the answers, right? There's still mystery.
Yes, that's a crucial part of its honesty. Towards the end, in chapter 8, Solomon makes this radical confession. He says, basically, even after dedicating himself to seeking wisdom, no one can comprehend what goes on under the sun. However much they toil, they cannot discover its meaning.
So even the wisest man admits he can't fully figure God out or understand everything about life.
Exactly. Life doesn't always follow neat, logical rules that we can grasp. Injustice happens, things seem unfair. And the teacher acknowledges this complexity, demanding a simple explanation for every contradiction that can lead to a crisis of faith.
Or maybe a different kind of faith.
Or potentially a more mature, resilient faith, one that can live with mystery.
And how did Onunga grapple with this? The why me question must have been huge for him.
It was. He asked it repeatedly, and he felt God was silent. But his breakthrough wasn't getting an answer. It was this quiet shift in perspective, almost a thought that came to him. Stop seeking answers. Seek me.
Wow. Seek God, not explanations.
Precisely. And that shift led him away from needing to control and understand everything, towards accepting the mystery and trusting God within it. And in that space, he says, God gave him peace, even without providing all the explanations he initially craved.
That really flies in the face of our modern demand for certainty, for data, for complete understanding.
It does. We're generally uncomfortable with ambiguity, with mystery. So the question is, are we willing to sit with the unanswered questions sometimes? To walk through the fog, trusting the one who holds the map, even when we can't see the next step clearly?
And Onunga connects this to Kierkegaard.
Yeah, he touches on that idea of the leap of faith, suggesting that true faith often flourishes not in absolute certainty, but in that space of reverence and trust, even amidst the unknowns.
Okay, so bringing it all down to the ground level,
Yeah.
how do we live this out day to day? Does Ecclesiastes offer practical, anchored wisdom for just daily life?
It does, especially in chapter 10. There are these sort of proverbial nuggets of wisdom. It starts with that really vivid image.
The dead flies.
Yeah. As dead flies give perfume a bad smell, so a little folly outweighs wisdom and honor, meaning it just takes one small act of foolishness, one lapse in judgment, to potentially spoil a reputation built over years of wisdom and honorable conduct. It highlights that wisdom isn't just abstract knowledge. It has to be lived out carefully, consistently, on the ground.
And Onunga found this crucial in his recovery, didn't he? The focus on daily habits.
Absolutely. He realized that a meaningful, stable life wasn't built on grand, dramatic gestures, but on the foundation of anchored daily habits.
Like what, specifically?
Things like consistent prayer, maintaining healthy boundaries in relationships, having honest conversations, taking care of his physical and mental health. Small, consistent actions. These became the unsung heroes of his recovery and ongoing well-being.
That really emphasizes the power of those small, consistent choices we make every day, things we might overlook.
Definitely. Do we pay attention to those little things? The small compromises, the minor neglects, the slightly careless words, because they can either strengthen our foundation or slowly, almost imperceptibly, corrode it.
And chapter 10 gives some specific examples that Onunga highlights.
It does. For instance, verse 10, if the axe is dull and its edge unsharpened, more strength is needed, but skill will bring success.
So work smart, sharpen your tools, basically.
Exactly. Then, verse 12, words from the mouth of the wise are gracious, but fools are consumed by their own lips.
A timeless reminder to watch what we say.
Definitely. And verse 18, through laziness the rafters sag, because of idle hands the house leaks.
Neglect has consequences. Things fall apart if you don't maintain them. Simple, practical wisdom.
Simple, practical, and profoundly true.
So after this whole journey exploring meaninglessness, pleasure, wealth, time, balance, community, reverence, action, mystery, daily habits, where does the teacher finally land? What's the ultimate takeaway?
He brings it all together in the very last chapter, chapter 12. He says, now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the duty of all mankind.
After all that complexity, it comes down to something that sounds quite simple.
It sounds simple, but it's incredibly profound. It distills everything down to its essence. Fear God, there's that call again to deep reverence, awe, humility, letting God's reality shape our perspective and desires. And keep his commandments. And this isn't just about rule following in a legalistic sense. In the context of the whole book, it feels more like a call to respond lovingly, to walk in alignment with the Creator's design for life, which ultimately leads to flourishing.
And this conclusion resonated deeply with Onunga.
Immensely. After years spent trying to define himself by his achievements, by what he could do, he came to this place of realizing God doesn't measure us by our performance, but relates to us through his presence, inviting our surrender, our trust.
Yeah.
And his urgent plea, based on his own painful journey, is essentially, don't wait. Don't wait for a crisis, for pain, for regret, to force you to confront these ultimate questions. Begin now.
That's powerful. Begin now to anchor your life in what truly matters.
It's a truly radical idea in our world today, isn't it? A world that often encourages self-worship or worship of achievement or wealth. To consciously choose to remember our Creator, that act itself, is a profound call to humility, to worship, to obedience, yes, but ultimately to a hope that goes beyond the cycles of under the sun. It hints at something more enduring.
Wow. What an incredible journey we've taken today through this ancient book, through Ecclesiastes, but made so vivid, so relevant by Onunga's personal story. it really does offer a bracing perspective on what we chase versus what actually lasts.
It really does. Because, as the book suggests, so much of what we strive for eventually fades. Titles, trophies, even our troubles and triumphs, they're temporary. But the connection with the Creator, that reverence, that remains.
So building right on that thought, here's maybe something for you, our listeners, to chew on this week. A final reflection.
Okay.
If true, lasting meaning really is found in that reverence and that connection with the Creator,
Yeah.
what's maybe one tangible small step you could take this week? Just one thing to anchor your life a little more firmly in something that will truly endure rather than, just keep chasing the wind.